As I launched Fretless for the first time and hovered over start, I had to take a pause. I watched as a pixel art guitarist plucked out a beautiful acoustic melody, and I just sat and took it all in, captivated before I had even pushed a button. This was the first of many memorable moments where I needed to stop, take my hands off the controller, and just listen. Fretless, the Wrath of Riffson is a passion project by first-time developers Ritual Studios, which attempts to bring the world of music YouTuber Rob Scallon to life. The final result reflects the circumstances of its creation in both the good and the bad. There are clear signs of inexperience throughout Fretless, confusing level design, a simple story, and massive balance issues. But the development team's love, dedication, and reverence for music and its role in games are so palpable, I couldn't help but be charmed by this uneven yet delightful adventure. The developers of Fretless have cheekily referred to it as a guitar PG. It's a turn-based deck builder where, instead of collecting cards to represent attacks and spells, you collect musical riffs to deal damage with your instruments. You play as Rob, decked out in Scallon's signature beanie, as he adventures to participate in the Battle of the Bands, hosted by obviously evil Mega CEO Rick Riffson. However, getting there isn't so easy, as the path is fraught with instrument-wielding monsters and Riffson's devilish goons that must be defeated with the power of face-melting song. It's a fun concept, with music at the core of every piece of its design. As I walked through the first area, a quaint village, I was immediately struck by just how much of the environment is in sync with the music. Walking through flowers triggers chimes in tune with the melody. Frogs croak along to the beat. Pair this with the excellent pixel art animations, and it creates a real sense that every piece of the environment is in harmony. This also kept my attention directed towards the music, which consistently was the best part of Fretless. Combat follows the standard turn-based card-slinging structure. You're dealt a hand of 6 riffs, and can play 3 each turn. The starting weapon, the acoustic guitar, features a simple deck with a mix of damage-dealing riffs and defensive shields. This gameplay felt a little too familiar, but the appeal is in how it leverages music. Each riff is, well, exactly that, a riff in the instrument's song. Once you've confirmed your selection, Rob will start his attack animation, and a 4-bar lick unique to each card will play, perfectly fitting in with the battle music. Each attack features a Mario RPG-style QTE that is timed to the beat and, if hit, will increase damage by 50%. I loved this interpretation of musical combat. It takes what is usually slow and cerebral gameplay and transforms it into something lively and interactive, just by tying it directly to the music. In every encounter, even the trivial ones, I found myself bobbing my head and tapping my foot, enjoying the music spectacle on display. Each instrument has a crescendo, a sort of ultimate ability that adds flair and depth to combat. Hitting QTEs will build up a meter that, once filled and activated, triggers a Guitar Hero-style minigame that requires you to hit buttons in time with the music. I was impressed with how well Ritual Studios was able to translate musical concepts to Fretless's RPG mechanics. Of course, there are the instruments. You'll acquire 4, each with a unique deck and playstyle. Instead of armor, you'll find music pedals that provide passive benefits. Each instrument can also be upgraded. For example, the acoustic guitar can be improved with a pickup, a capo, and better strings. It's a fun and clever way to take standard RPG systems and make them feel fresh and in tune with the musical world that Ritual Studios created. Unfortunately, while I loved its thematic design, the actual gameplay fell short of its potential. It started well enough. Choosing which riffs to play wasn't all that difficult, but it was fun to learn their animations and improve at hitting the QTEs for bonus damage. And I enjoyed experimenting with the composition of my deck after receiving a few new riffs. Unfortunately, within the first third of the game, I crafted an overly powerful strategy with one of the instruments that I won't spoil so you can discover it yourself. This trivialized most of the encounters. Multiple story bosses melted on turn 2 with this build. I'm all for allowing players to break the game, but it felt like this one was handed to me on a silver platter far too early on. There was no satisfaction in its discovery. It reached a point where I forced myself to play with different instruments in an attempt to keep things interesting, but I was still breezing through battles. What I like about deck builders is their cerebral nature. It's satisfying to craft a strategy and see it come to fruition, and I appreciate having to make difficult decisions during battle. Unfortunately, Fretless lacks the necessary depth to keep gameplay engaging, especially with its balance issues. It feels like there was such a focus on integrating music into combat that the essence of what makes deck builders fun was lost along the way. Once the initial appeal of riffs being a part of the song wore off, especially after I'd heard them dozens of times, combat lost its luster, and I found myself avoiding encounters whenever possible. The story also falls short in several areas. I know there needs to be some musical instigation for this hero's journey, but an adventure to win a battle of the bands is so safe and overplayed. The steps in between are just a series of diversions and obstacles preventing you from going straight to the final act, but nothing meaningful occurs. And a conflict between an indie artist and a corporate overlord is incredibly cliched and predictable. The plot is basically Scott Pilgrim saves the world without the evil X's. Outside of incorporating characters from Rob Scallon videos, the narrative lacks anything that makes it unique from other music-themed adventures, which left me severely disappointed. Despite this, I still enjoyed my time with Fretless. Everything exudes such a positive energy. Between its colorful cast of characters, lively environments, dynamic animations, and an unabashed willingness to stick to its rock music themes, I couldn't help but be charmed by the world I was experiencing. The roughly 6-hour adventure doesn't overstay its welcome either, and it's packed with so many occasions that produced a smile or laugh that I still felt compelled to see everything Fretless had to offer. Many of these moments were a result of the numerous nods to Rob Scallon's YouTube videos. Several numbers in the soundtrack adapt songs Rob has released on his channel. For example, I was thrilled every time I opened a treasure chest and heard a few notes of his most famous piece, Rain. Several YouTube musicians who have collaborated with Rob in the past appear in-game playing a song they contributed to Fretless. Some of my favorites on the soundtrack, which is filled with bangers, came from these guest appearances. And sure, I could have just listened to the soundtrack on Spotify, but it was far more memorable discovering them organically amidst this creative world where they will forever be immortalized. I don't think it is necessary to be familiar with Rob Scallon to appreciate Fretless, but as a longtime fan of his work, finding these Easter eggs made for some of my favorite moments. Fretless, The Wrath of Riffson is far from perfect. The story is cliched in one note, and the combat lacks the necessary balance and depth to remain enjoyable, which is massively disappointing considering the core premise carries so much potential. That said, I still recommend giving Fretless a try. The way it leverages music in its RPG and deck builder mechanics is so clever, and the environments are literally singing with charm. Ritual Studios' inexperience may have been what holds this back from being a must-play title, but their dedication to creating a world bursting at the seams with the positive energy of music shines through, making Fretless an enjoyable and worthwhile experience. Thank you for watching. I'm a partnered creator with Minimap, who's kind enough to provide me with the code for this review. Minimap is the ultimate gaming app. It allows you to track all of your games and achievements in one place thanks to its Game Sync feature that works with PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, and Steam. You can also share updates and reviews with a small but passionate and growing community. I'm a data nerd, so I love everything Minimap allows me to track, like what systems I own a game on and total hours played. And I've discovered so many great games through reading community posts and reviews. This isn't a paid advertisement, I just really like the Minimap app and community and want to see it grow. So if you are interested, check out the link in the description. And to see more of my game reviews, please subscribe. Okay, thank you, bye!